On today's episode, we've got 10 super cheap or free tips, tools, tactics, software pieces, whatever you want to call it. These programs help us run our business every day. We thought we'd pull them together and share them with you. So let's get started. Okay, everybody, this is the Lifestyle Business Podcast, and I'm excited to be on the phone today with Ian. Ian, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Dan. How's it going?
It's going good. Hey, I want to apologize. I'm in the Philippines. It's crazy. It's very difficult to find a quiet spot in this entire country where there's a Wi-Fi signal. So if you hear roosters crowing, people beeping their horns, that's just what we're dealing with. Phones going off, everything.
Understood.
So a lot of people have been writing me emails actually saying, what's going on? Why aren't you guys recording more podcasts? And the explanation is we have recorded a couple podcasts that we didn't post. And I don't know. We talk on the phone a lot because we are working together as well. I don't know. I think a lot of it is we get off on these philosophical tangents and just think, man, there's nobody that would ever want to listen to this stuff.
Pretty much. So we try to keep the content interesting to other people, hopefully, than us. So let us know if we're doing a good job of that.
Yeah, and also it could help if there are specific questions that listeners would like us to address, would be useful to them. Just let us know. You can reach us at Dan or Ian at Lifestyle Business Podcast, and we'll do that. So today what we've done is pulled together 10 specific tools that we use to help run our business that are mostly free. Some are just very inexpensive relative to the kinds of value they provide. So we just pulled together a list of 10 things that help us run our 100% remote business. And so we thought that could be helpful to aspiring or established entrepreneurs out there. Is that about right, Ian?
Well, yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, all these tools, we've stumbled upon or we've been told about, and I think like 8 out of the 10 are free.
And real quick before
really have value.
Right. Before we push off on this stuff, is there any kind of like news in your life? Like what are the kinds of things that are going on? It's been probably 3 weeks since the last podcast. What kinds of challenges and kinds of things have you been up to?
Well, we're kind of in the middle of a couple pretty big deals for 2010, some contract work. So if that goes well, I think it could probably double one of our businesses next year.
Right.
With some of that work that's coming through. And so I guess the interesting part about that is we've been kind of dealing with this one of these niche product businesses for the past 2 years. Some of the relationships are starting to catch up with us, and it's something that you don't think about, I guess, but it just kind of happens. It kind of whips around on you. So we've been slowly building relationships over the past 2 years, and they're slowly starting to pay off.
Right.
And I guess that's what you'd call organic growth.
Yeah.
So
that's really exciting. It's
yeah,
kind of like
it
it's a snowball effect or just momentum starting to build. And I love how you say like this contract work, because a lot of times people don't talk about that in the internet marketing space. But sometimes when you can show yourself, demonstrate yourself as an expert in a niche, you can just really score some lucrative contracts that unlike sort of incremental product sales, they really, in the same way a new product has an opportunity to sort of revolutionize your business, so can a new contract or a new big relationship like that. So we're literally sitting on the precipice of potentially doubling our business overnight, and that's awesome.
And it's something that it's interesting, I guess, because it's something that you don't count on. You don't say, well, 2011 we're going to get a bunch of contract work.
Right.
So unless you've started to get contract work, and then you can see it coming. But in our case, we didn't really see it coming. It was just totally organic. I guess, one thing that we've learned in doing this is that, with everything, it just takes a long time for things to catch up. And it looks like for us, 2010 will be that time.
That's all the more reason to get started today. Steve Pavlina tweeted today that later is never, and I couldn't agree with him more. Right now, I am still in the Philippines. I'm planning to go to Thailand in the next couple weeks. I'm really excited about that. And the Tropical MBA program is going to get its kickstart in a couple days here. So I'm going to kick that off with the announcement of the winner, some videos, and get that website up and running. So I'm really excited about the Tropical MBA, and we'll be talking more about that on the podcast. But how about we get to these 10 tips?
Let's do it. So number one on the list is the Google Keyword Tool. And basically, the Google Keyword Tool is an extremely free and extremely valuable tool. First and foremost, for a lot of people, understanding how big a market is. So, for example, if you type in laptop, it'll tell you how many local searches there are for laptops and then how many global searches there are for laptops. So this becomes like really relevant when you try to say, hey, how much demand is there for this kind of product, or who's looking for this kind of product?
Yeah, and it's such a unique way to actually fully conceptualize a market. It's a way to think of a market. We were talking about what are the ways in which you can identify a market. Well, one is you could do a subscription base, like the total readers of Cat Fancy are 500,000 or whatever. So that's a market. Excuse me. Wow. Another way to do it is a mailing list. There are 10,000 people on X mailing list. That's a captive market. Well, here's another way to conceptualize a captive market. There are 1 million people searching for the word laptop every month, and that's meaningful, I think. And we use that all the time to evaluate market size. And if you've never heard of this tool, or if you're an advanced user, there's some really interesting things you can start to do with this when you get used to it. One is, for example, determining the average click-through rates on the top ads in Google, so the AdWords around the organic search results. And then you can do a little math equation, basically, that'll give you an idea of how much those people are paying for those ads. And so you can actually not only get the market size in terms of searches, but the market valuation. So how much money are the top Google Ads guys paying to be in the laptop market, for example? And so you can actually put a number on the market, which I think is a really interesting thing to do. If you're interested in that kind of analysis, you can just do a search for keyword market pricing tool or something. I'm sure you can dig something up, but it's certainly a little bit more advanced, maybe just for the internet marketers out there.
Yeah.
But what here's what's interesting, just to inject one more, is that you're not an internet marketer, Ian, but you use this tool all the time.
Sure.
Just as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually how I use it, is just to kind of get a feel for how big a market might be, or how many people are searching for a certain thing. And you have to be careful with it too. I mean, it can be deceiving if you're just using it for that reason. So like if you type in Nike shoes, half of those people that are looking for Nike shoes are probably just looking to see the shoe, to see the color, or to see something that they saw in the store. But for our purposes, or for my purposes, I want to know how many people are typing in that keyword actually looking to purchase that product.
Right.
So it only works in certain instances in my case.
Yeah, and there are some tools out there that can help you determine, how likely a particular key term market is to purchase something. And Yahoo used to have a tool. John Jonas talks about some of those tools over at his blog. But that's pretty advanced for what we're trying to do here. So let's just back it up. Google Keyword Tool, that's a whole world of wonderfulness if you want to get into Google Keyword analytics. So,
right. So our next
number 2 is Gmail via your web host. In our case, we use 2 web hosts, Bluehost and HostGator. Couldn't be happier with both their services and price level. But what I'm really talking about is how we use Gmail to interact with our hosts. And I think it's critical. You want to send a professional looking email from, in our case, we would write an email at lifestylebusinesspodcast.com. But I'm sending that email through Gmail. And the default Gmail setting is, it would say like, from whatever my real email address is, on behalf of Dan at Lifestyle Business Podcast, and it looks really unprofessional. But using Gmail is great because you can actually program in to send outbound from like 15 different accounts, for example, which I actually do. You can go into the Gmail settings and put in your web host's information, and it actually sends outbound via your real web host's SMPT server. So it puts the authentic domain stamp on that email. So I can send basically 15 different brands, 15 different personas or whatever, outbound through my personal Gmail account.
Which is crucial if you're running multiple businesses or have multiple aliases or DBAs or whatnot.
Yeah, in my case, I'm just Mr. DBA. I could be 15 different people on any given day. So that's a really cool way to make it fast, make it productive, and it's very, very simple to set up. If anyone's interested in like specific instructions on that, just shoot me an email and I can help you out on that. What's number 3?
Number 3 is Grasshopper, and the main goal is to act as a segue between your customer and you. The way that we use it is to present ourselves as a large company, which maybe someday we will be, but it's an extremely professional looking, sounding, feeling phone service that goes directly to our cell phones.
Awesome.
So the reason that's important for us is because we're always on the go. It's a really cool phone system. I think it starts off around $30 to $50 a month. And everything is configurable from on their website. So you can set it up with one main 1-800 number. And that can go to countless numbers of cell phones, say 5, 10, 100 people. You can turn on and off those cell phones. So if you're out of town, it goes to the next available person. If you want to transfer calls, you can. It's extremely sophisticated at a very low price.
Awesome. Killer. Grasshopper.com for that. Number 4, Skype and its correlate, the Skype iPhone application. So this goes without saying for any mobile business person that Skype is just masterclass. It's incredible software. I find that, for me, like one of my personal rules, being on the road, being overseas, is every day to talk with people back in the West about what's going on in our business and to stay in touch with people. And it's absolutely critical to be able to, have a connection that you can rely on and that it's clear. I basically use the iPhone application, Skype. I have a paid account. I don't even know what I pay monthly. I'm on the phone every single day, and I think I'd have a hard time spending $10 to $15 a month on Skype. It's just unbelievable how cheap, the value you can get for basically nothing using Skype. So I also find that the iPhone application is very light, and that even with dim Wi-Fi connection, I can get a really strong connection back west. So I couldn't be happier with utilizing the Skype. Skype's awesome. Everybody's using it. It's awesome. Next thing, everybody knows about it. But I just got to say I love it, and I love it especially through the iPhone because it allows me that real kind of telephone experience. I don't have to open up my laptop and put on these headphones and everything. I just put my phone up to my ear and I'm talking with somebody, and I love it.
Incredible.
Yeah.
The next thing that we're going to talk about is Paychecks.
Paychecks.
And a lot of you are probably familiar with Paychecks as well. Paychecks is a payroll processing.
Let me just make a confession. I have no idea what you're talking about. What is Paychecks?
Okay. So Paychecks is a payroll processing company. There's a lot out there, a lot of different companies out there. But the reason we were turned on by Paychecks is because they're extremely responsive, extremely personable. I'll admit they don't have the best online interface. I think right now they've just like acquired an online company or something like that, small payroll biz or something like that. But it's not the best online interface. But in terms of responsiveness and good pricing, and somebody to file all your taxes and do all the legwork for you. If you have employees, they're a great option.
For someone who doesn't have any employees yet, why would you get a payroll processor instead of just cutting the check, have an accountant cut your employees a check every couple weeks? What's the advantage?
Well, a lot of accountants don't even touch payroll because it's extremely complicated the way you have to report to the federal on the federal and the state level.
Okay.
So a lot of CPA firms and accountants won't touch payroll. They just outsource through these companies like Paychecks.
Okay.
So if you're looking for a really good company to work with at a decent price, I think anywhere from 5 to I think they deal with even one employee.
Okay.
For around $50 or $60 a month. It's good.
Okay.
Your employee gets paid on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, however you want to set it up, and they take care of everything for you.
Yeah, and the key here is just making it as easy as possible to get people on your team and forget about the headaches and focus on the work.
Exactly. We are on number 6.
Whoa. Hey now. Well, number 6 is rescuetime.com. This is a program that I think a lot of people sort of sign up for and then stop using. I got re-inspired by a blog I was reading to reset up rescuetime.com. Actually, I think Tim Ferriss is an investor in this company. And what I've done the second lap around that's really made it more successful for me is that I've invested time up front to like really teach it about my web habits. So to really get an in-depth analysis of how I'm spending my time on the web, because it's such a challenge to be productive on the web because there's just so much noise. And so for me, I've set up Rescue Time to give me reports on how I'm spending my time, and that's really helpful for me. Perhaps even more helpful is the blocking feature. So you can block for all time or for certain amounts of time when you really need to be productive, and you just say, don't let me go to these sites. Even though you can, of course, get around it, it's really, really helpful to just constantly be reminding yourself, hey, like, don't go to the Huffington Post, Dan. You can't go there. You have something to do.
It's really hard. You
really
got to put blinders on yourself on the web. You're sitting in front of this little device these days that has access to any and every kind of information you want. So it's super easy for everybody, I'm sure they know, to get distracted. And so you have to set up rules for yourself.
Absolutely. If you're going to be successful, you have to fight back. You have to take it seriously. And for me, YouTube is like my Achilles heel. Like you guys heard us talking about keyword analytics earlier, like 5 minutes of keyword analytics and I'm like alt tab YouTube, like automatically just like my brain just wants to bail out. And I have to fight against that, and Rescue Time really helps me. I just put on that, like, no way, man, you're writing articles for the next half an hour, or you're on AdWords, or you're writing this email to your partners, and that's what it's going to be. And Rescue Time helps with that. There's also a more advanced hacker solution, which is that you can edit your hosts file in the Windows, and you can actually tell your computer to block certain IP addresses. So that can be some advanced stuff if you're interested in really sort of institutionalizing your discipline, which I think is critical.
And you can set this up on your employees as well.
You can do it. If you're a Machiavellian bastard, you can definitely do that. What's number 7?
Number 7 is this is kind of a combined point. Competitor sites. Visit your competitor sites often. We do it all the time. I think at least once a week we have scheduled to just go through 5 minutes on our competitor sites.
And what are the tools you're using to do that easily?
One of the ways that you can do that is to set up your Google Alerts.
Okay.
Just type in Google Alerts. And what it'll do is basically if you have a competitor that's always using a key phrase or handbags or something like that, anytime the term handbags comes up, you'll get an email alerting you that, hey, somewhere on the web this has been said, handbags.
Right. And this is actually, you could also do this for your name as well, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It's pretty cool stuff for your company names, for your competitors' names.
And so Google Alerts is a good way to know about what's happening know about what's happening. And also Google Reader. And Dan, you use the Google Reader a lot.
Yeah, if I see an RSS option on any competitor industry site, I just grab it and toss it into my Google Reader. For those of you who aren't using Google Reader, it's one of those things that I'd say you absolutely must be using Google Reader. It's an awesome piece of software. It's way more efficient, and it helps you, keep track of the blogs and the websites and the products that you're interested in. So I would encourage all of you that aren't using Google Reader to, for example, open up your Google Reader account. If you have a Gmail address, you already have one. It's just the next option on the top of the screen next to Gmail. And go ahead and put in our URL, Lifestyle Business Podcast, and you're going to get delivered directly to your inbox all of our most recent content. Great way to follow people that you enjoy on the internet, podcasters, bloggers, but it's awesome for keeping track of your competition as well.
It also helps you focus, like you said, so you don't have to go check your favorite blog every day, right?
Yeah, it can be distracting.
It'll just be delivered to your inbox.
And you can dice it up any way you want. You have that information in your system then that you can search it, you can process it, sort it, keep it organized. So I think that it makes it workable rather than actually having to go out and visit all these sites all the time.
Good tip. What's up next?
Number 8 is GTD, getting things done. This is a tool, no question, and it's one that really revolutionized the way I work, especially We're talking about how important it is for a knowledge worker to set up discipline and systems that allow them to, get the things done in their life that they want to see happen. For me, my GTD system, I won't go over it in detail. Getting Things Done is a book by David Allen. If you are a knowledge worker and you haven't read it, you should read it immediately. The kind of mental clarity that you can achieve is incredible. My system works like this. I have a large blank sketch pad where I'm basically using that as my inbox, and then I'm also setting up all my next actions and projects on there. All my projects are archived digitally in my Gmail files. I use the labels functionality in Gmail. I use a very simple Gmail system. I don't have all the crazy life hacker setup with multiple inboxes and multiple stars and stuff, although you can do that. I don't think it's worth it. One thing that's really helpful that if you're not familiar with GTD that could even be helpful for you is I use calendar tickles, which is that if I get a piece of information that I want to think about later, I want to prompt myself to remember, I'll go into Google Calendar, put in a date in the future. I'll say, remember that right now you need to reevaluate your insurance or whatever, and then I'll put an email reminder. So I know in 3 months I'm going to get an email that prompts me to reevaluate something, and it's out of sight, out of mind. I don't have to carry anything for the next 3 months. It's just set. It's one of the things I love about David Allen's suggestions. And one more thing I have to indulge is how important one aspect of the program is to me in my life, and that's the weekly review. GTD's weekly review has had a profound impact on my life, and it's a very simple thing. All it means is that once a week you sit down for an hour and you do a 100% re-inventorying of all the tasks and projects and goals in your life. It totally makes you feel empowered, because you can kind of you're working so hard and people are asking you to do stuff, and then you can feel frazzled. The weekly review has, at one point in my career, prevented me from hiring a person. I was so frazzled at what was going on. My solution at the time was to hire somebody to have them do this work, basically to have them track a set of projects. And instead what I did was I pulled together my team, and for an hour every week we talked about every single thing that was happening in our business. And we put it back into its appropriate category, reprioritized it, so to speak. And such a simple thing, but it has really changed the way that I approach my business and the tasks that I have to do. So Getting Things Done, can't recommend it more.
And the cool thing about Getting Things Done is you can apply his method to a bunch of different systems. So like you were saying, you have different folders in your Gmail. I have different physical folders that I put pieces of paper into, which David Allen recommended. So there's a bunch of different ways to implement his ideas into a lot of probably your current systems that you have going right now.
Totally. What's number 9?
Hacker news.
Somewhat healthy diversions. I don't know, just maybe not the best, but also another platform just to talk about how damaging inputting media can be. And the only reason that inputting media is dangerous is because it profoundly impacts your output. And as an entrepreneur, you're really responsible for output. At the end of the day, nobody's ever gonna give you any money or reward or status for having inputted the appropriate amount of things. It doesn't matter what books you've read if you haven't been able to produce anything based on the knowledge therein, at least in terms of business. I certainly have a great appreciation for, being on the receiving end of some great art. I love Tim Ferriss's point about this, which is input and output is a one-way road. You're either, at any given time in your life, you're either doing one or the other. And managing that process is really important. And for me, that means finding ways to maximize output. But when, on the other hand, I do want to do some input, some industry computer marketing software related to sites I like are Hacker News. That's a great sort of similar to Reddit, but more focused on startup community. This is what, so to speak, I've heard the startup community called the cool kids. There's two different groups of people on the internet. There's the internet marketers, which are kind of like the guys who use big yellow fonts and try to sell you on a big long website. Those are the guys who are making money. Then there's the cool kids who are making cool software, and they're hanging out at Hacker News. The internet marketers, one good site I like to use is Click News. It's Lynn Terry's web personal blog. She gives good news updates on the internet marketing segment, and she's also on Internet Marketing This Week podcast, which is more or less overview of what the top sort of internet marketer type product launch kind of guys are doing. And that could be helpful if you want to track that industry. Although ultimately, at the end of the day, maybe I'm ambivalent about this tip, just to say that these are kind of the best of what's out there, Hacker News and Click News. But I've definitely sent to the grave a lot of my time at these two sites. So
so set these sites up on rescue time if needed, right?
They're in there as definitely not productive, but it does make me feel connected, especially when you're on the other side of the world.
And for our 10th and final point?
10th and final point is a little piece of software called Dark Room. You can find it by typing in Dark Room. There are a bunch of solutions for text composition, but this is one I really like because it's just bare bones simple. You actually can't even do any formatting. There's no spell check. What it is it totally blanks your computer screen, and it just is a text composition that ends up saving files in a .txt file. What you can do basically is set your font to a large point. You use that green, glowy, hacker color font with a black background, and you'll be surprised at not only the kind of clarity and lack of distraction you can have from blanking out your whole screen, but also how much easier it is on your eyes to look at black than it is to look at white. Because in order to render white on a computer screen, the screen actually emits light, whereas black, it's just nothing. So your eye fatigue goes way down, and that's helpful if you really need to dig in and write for a half an hour, which is something that I do quite often. Communicating with writing is a big part of what I do. So
and it's retro looking, so it's pretty trendy.
It's cool. It's like a cool piece of little hacker software written by some guy and somewhere, and it's not a commercial piece of software, but it's really cool. So Dark Room. It's not darkroom.com. It's some weird URL. So just search for that on Google.
Excellent.
If you have an idea for an episode or some kind of question you would like Ian and I to answer, re-recorded on the podcast, we are 50% likely to answer your email if you send it to Dan at lifestylebusinesspodcast, don't worry about the dashes.com.